The Ticwatch Pro 5 is finally here, and sorry Google, sorry Samsung, it is the best Wear OS watch right now. In fact, I reckon it's the best consumer smartwatch right now. Boasting slick performance and incredible battery life, the Ticwatch Pro 5 can be yours for just £329 or $349 US, and you can snaffle it from the likes of Amazon. I've had the Ticwatch Pro 5 slapped to my spindly wrist for a couple of weeks now, so here's my in-depth review, and for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do poke subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! So let's start with the design, and I've got to admit, before the Ticwatch Pro 5 actually showed up at Techspert Towers, I was expecting it to be a lot chunkier. And don't get me wrong, this smartwatch is still quite girthy, as you can see there, comparable to the likes of Google's Pixel Watch. But the overall design just feels more refined compared with some of the previous Ticwatches. So it certainly doesn't look or feel quite as chunky as some of those past generations. And while it's possibly not quite as pretty as that Pixel watch, I do love that pebble style design. It's definitely up there with the likes of the Samsung Galaxy watches. As we've determined in many a smartwatch video, I have teeny tiny little wrists that even a Girl Scout would frankly laugh at. So some smartwatches do look rather ridiculous when I stick them on my arm, but thankfully not a problem here with the Ticwatch Pro 5. That design suits my childlike frame, and it's just 44 grams as well, so feels lightweight. The casing is constructed from 7000 series aluminium, apparently the toughest of all the aluminiums. You've got a metal bezel surrounding that display, and it does jut up ever so slightly above the surface of the screen as well, just for a bit of added protection. You've also got a layer of Gorilla Glass protecting the screen to help prevent scratches, and apparently this thing has been put through all kinds of military standard 810 tests. So it's endured shocks, extreme temperatures, drops, all kinds of stuff. In other words, the Ticwatch Pro 5 is a double hard bastard, and certainly after a couple of weeks of use, I've seen absolutely no nicks, scuffs, any signs of wear and tear. I could have basically just pulled this thing straight out of the box this morning because it looks proper fresh. And if you want to do a bit of skinny dipping with this thing, or you simply can't be bothered to remove it when you jump in the bath, well, no worries, it can withstand up to 5 atmospheres of pressure. As for the Ticwatch's strap, well, it's a standard 24mm silicone effort. I've had absolutely no issues wearing this thing 24 hours for the past couple of weeks. But if you want to swap them out for another 24mm pair, that's quick and easy to do. Now, although the Ticwatch Pro 5 runs Wear OS, you don't use the Wear OS app to set it up. What you'll need to download from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store is Mobvoi Health. Now, the Mobvoi Health app, in the prettiest, has to be said, not quite as logically laid out, not as user-friendly as the Wear OS app. But you can do quite a lot of customization this way, starting with the watch face. You can directly edit the current face that you are rocking. Otherwise, poke this wee button next to it with 4 lines on it, and you can change up the watch face from a small but reasonable variety. You got some animated efforts, plenty of analog and digital selections, and most of them are quite colourful, packing quite a lot of information, but you've got some more simplified ones as well. And yes, you can always download more watch faces from the internet as well. You can also change up the tiles on your watch, but I'll bang on more about that when we're actually touring the watch UI. And then if you go into settings, this is where you set up all the main bits, including the notifications, so you can see exactly which apps are allowed to give your wrist a buzz. And there's some other very useful settings in here, such as, for instance, syncing the Do Not Disturb. So when your phone's on Do Not Disturb, so is your watch. And if you tap stats down here at the bottom, you can basically get an overview of what you've been up to, all of your activity as recorded by the watch. In my case today, as you can see, I've done my usual daily commute, walking down the stairs from my bedroom to the studio. Let me tell you, I was bloody knackered at the end of that. Now, even if you're not particularly eagle-eyed, you've probably already spotted that Mobvoi has once again gone with that dual display design for the Ticwatch Pro 5. The display that is usually visible when the watch is resting is this low-powered screen. This works like an always-on display, saps very little power. You do have some backlighting, which, as you can see there, illuminates all of the information when you do raise your wrist. And this will tell you all the basic information you'll need to know at a glance, like the date, the time, and also, if you care, the current step count and heart rate. And if you want to, using that low-powered screen, you can actually get a readout of your current heart rate. You can check how many calories you've burned, get your skin temperature, all of this information without actually waking up the main power-sucking OLED. I gotta admit, didn't really use that low-powered display to check my heart rate or my SpO2 levels throughout the day, because who really cares? But I did use it dozens of times a day for checking the time, occasionally checking the date as well. And then with either a poke of that display or a jab of this little side button here, you can actually wake up the watch properly and treat your peepers to the absolute eye candy that is that 1.43-inch OLED display. As you'd expect from a premium smartwatch, it's a bit of a stunner. You've got a 466 by 466 pixel resolution, 326 pixels per inch. So even with the most dense and complex watch faces, those teeny complications are perfectly legible. Colors are bright and poppy, really suiting the Wear OS menus and the various apps. And certainly no issues whatsoever with visibility. Everything is bright and clear, the auto brightness works well, and on the maximum brightness, no problem seeing what is going on, even when that sun is shining in force. Wide viewing angles there too as well, so even at a narrow angle you can see exactly what's going on. And as already mentioned, a good variety of watch faces to slap on there. And most of these can be fully customized, so you can change up the color scheme and also mess around with some of the individual complications. Again, quite a good variety of stuff you can chuck on there, including fast access to the Google Wallet, your favorite contact. You can even chuck media controls on there if you want. I particularly like the media controls complication because it even gives you a bit of cover art, and then just give it a quick tap and you're straight into those controls. So you can skip a track, change up the volume right there on your wrist using the old rotating dial. And I'm certainly a fan of that fresh Wear OS UI as well. You can use the rotating crown to pull down the toggles and settings. And this certainly served up everything that I could possibly want. You've again got media controls, you can check the battery life, fast access to the likes of Do Not Disturb, theatre mode, bedtime mode, airplane mode, find my phone, the torch, pretty handy if you're trying to find the bogs in the middle of the night, and of course Google Wallet for your contactless payments. And naturally you can fully customize the toggles so you can get rid of any that you might not need. Meanwhile, twist the crown in the opposite direction and you've got your notifications list. And as usual, you've got a little timeline of everything that's ticked in since the last time you checked. If anything piques your interest, just give it a little tap and that will expand the notifications. So for instance, for an email, you can see some of the text inside. Don't get the pictures cropping up or anything, but it gives you a good overview. And then you can choose from a variety of responses. You can actually reply with the mini keyboard if you so desire. It's not exactly the neatest method of replying, and I certainly wouldn't recommend it for doing anything more than about 3 words. But it does actually work better than you would expect. Far more useful is the microphone feature, where you just give that a tap and then speak your response rather than going or alternatively, if the message is a load of bollocks, you can just archive it or delete it right there on your watch face. Don't even have to bother pulling your phone out of your pocket. The mic does a really good job of picking up on your voice, even in quite a noisy environment. You've also got a built-in speaker, which is surprisingly loud. And these can be used to take calls as well, again, if you can't be bothered to pull your phone out. But talking about the speaker and the mic, one feature that isn't available here on the Ticwatch Pro 5 is the Google Assistant. There's no voice assistant functionality whatsoever. Personally, I didn't miss that at all because I rarely use my voice assistant on my phone, let alone on my smartwatch. You got fast access to all the main features right there through the watch screen, but some people might be a little bit put off by that. Now here on the right hand side of the Ticwatch Pro 5, you've got not only that rotating dial, which also doubles as a button, but you've also got a separate side button. If you poke that dial once, you'll wake up the watch, poke it again, and the Ticwatch Pro 5 will load up a list of all of the apps you got installed on it. And meanwhile, by default, the other button will bring up a list of your recently used apps. And if you long press it, you've got fast access to the Google Wallet. And then, as usual, from that watch face, you can flick left or right to access all of your tiles, which are basically just app widgets. These loop around, which I'm definitely a massive fan of. So you get straight back to the watch face and you can just keep on going indefinitely. And they're fully customizable as well, so just long press on any of the tiles. You can change its position, you can get rid of it entirely, and you can add in new tiles as well. There's a reasonable selection. Certainly all the main stuff you could think of, your next available calendar appointment, your alarm, bit of Google Maps action, and of course all of your various stats. And you've got all the usual googly apps on here, so you can fast access your calendar, your alarms, the Google Wallets. One of my personal favorites, the Maps. This stores all of your recent searches that you've done. Otherwise, you can search for a new destination and then say how you want to get there, walking, biking, or driving. And then as well as previewing the route, you can also get turn-by-turn navigation steps popping up right there on your wrists. You don't have to clutch your phone right in front of your face as you're wandering around looking like a complete tourist. You can zoom in and out using that rotating dial. It's just a beautiful setup. And Mobvoi has also chucked on quite a variety of Ticwatch apps. Most of these are health and fitness related, so you've got the likes of Tic Oxygen, measures your SpO2, Tic Pulse, measures your heart rate, unsurprisingly. Tic Zen can measure your stress levels and then lead you through the usual breathing exercises. Inhale, exhale, just got an ounce in the mail. And then you've also got the likes of the Tic Barometer, which also has a built-in altimeter, never really entirely sure on how to pronounce that one, and the likes of the Tic compass as well, so handy if you are an outdoors person. I myself, more of a Morley's Fried Chicken and Netflix box set kind of guy. And then if you do notice a gap in that app library, you can just jump on into the Play Store and you'll find a great variety of stuff on here. So lots of watch faces, for instance, if you get bored of the Mobvoi selection. If you do use a specific fitness app like Strava, chances are it'll be supported here. You got 32 gigs of storage space here on the Ticwatch Pro 5, so plenty for all of your apps. You can also chuck a bunch of media on here, get some Bluetooth headphones hooked up. As for all of those super fun health stats, well, the Ticwatch Pro 5 measures all the usual shenanigans: heart rate, SpO2, even your skin temperature, and you can get a pretty full and comprehensive update right here on your wrist. I did find that steps count only seems to occasionally update, however, so suddenly it'll just spring up by a couple of hundred, mildly irritating at best. However, I did very much like the one-tap measurement, which basically covers off all of your major stats all in one go, so you're not having to go into individual apps. It does take a minute or so, during which you have to remain completely still, otherwise you can get slightly dodgy results, like here for instance, my blood oxygen is rated as 93%. Whereas not even a minute later I've done another SpO2 reading and apparently it's 97%. As for Tic exercise, well, this supports over 100 different types of ways that you can prevent yourself from turning into a massive tub of lard. Got quite a lot of random stuff in there, including exercises you can just do at home without any equipment, which is always good. Some random stuff like horseback riding and hula hooping. It's not quite as comprehensive as some smartwatches out there. For instance, there's no boxing on there, which is a shame because that's my own preferred way of not putting on the pounds. Good old wrist rotations though, I certainly do plenty of that. The Ticwatch Pro 5 is also supposed to automatically detect when you're walking or running and then start recording the exercises and activity. I found that never worked once for me, unfortunately, so you're gonna have to get used to doing it all manually. So anyhow, I ended up using the freestyle exercise tracking quite a lot. And this serves up all the information you would expect. You've got a readout of your heart rate, you've also got an estimate of how many calories you've burnt, and the duration of the exercise so far right there on the main screen. You can also swipe this way to access your media controls, but I found this quite tricky to do, especially if you're in the middle of an exercise. For some reason the sensitivity is way off, so it takes quite a few swipes to actually get it to work. And then if you swipe this away, which thankfully is much easier, you can stop the exercise in its tracks. And then you get a brief overview right there on your wrist at the end of the exercise. And if you want a bit more information, just jump on into that Mobvoi Health app and you get a full breakdown of your heart rate, the different zones that your heart was in during the exercise, and then any other information that's relevant to whatever exercise type you were doing. It's by no means the most comprehensive when it comes to the fitness tracking, so certainly if you are looking for a smartwatch to be your health buddy, I'd say you'd probably be better off with something like a Garmin, a more dedicated fitness smartwatch. But for more casual exercises such as myself, it'll do the job. And if you are doing outdoor activities, you've got a 5 GNSS setup here, GPS plus BeiDou or BeiDou, however you pronounce it, GLONASS, Galileo and QZSS. So super accurate location tracking, no issues there. And of course, naturally, the Ticwatch Pro 5 supports the usual obligatory sleep tracking shenanigans, and as usual, it's not particularly accurate. I was awake several times during the night. This reckons I didn't wake up again until almost 5-6 AM. So quite optimistic, and I don't really find this stuff very useful, but some people might like it. Now, the performance side of things, the Ticwatch Pro 5 is powered by Qualcomm's Snapdragon W5 Plus Gen 1 chipset. It's a 4nm platform. You might remember it was announced about a year ago, and this is actually the first time it's been stuffed inside of any smartwatch randomly. And this is backed by a pretty generous 2 gigs of RAM in the Ticwatch Pro 5, and I gotta say the performance has been absolutely perfect. Sterling stuff, super slick and smooth when you're zipping through that UI. Apps load up instantly, absolutely no delays or stutters or anything. But the true highlight of the Ticwatch Pro 5 is the battery life. You've got a 628 mAh capacity cell somehow stuffed inside of this not too chunky frame, and that combined with that really clever dual display design means you get excellent battery life out of this thing. Better than any other Wear OS watch that I've personally tested. So I found that from a full charge, I will get between 4 to 5 days of use out of this thing. And that is with all of the features turned on, constant tracking, it never leaves my wrist. I'm using apps pretty often, using those media controls, timers, and of course occasionally a bit of fitness tracking. So that is just leaps and bounds ahead of the Pixel Watch, which I just about get 24 hours of use out of. Even the Samsung Galaxy Watch 5 Pro, that thing would just about stretch to 3 days if you were really careful with it. And yeah, there are smartwatches from the likes of Huawei and Xiaomi which can go longer than 4 days, talking about a week or so, maybe even longer on a single charge. But they don't have that dedicated Wear OS support, so you don't get the full notification support, you haven't got all the Google Play Store access, etc. So for me, this is the victor every time. If the battery's almost fully drained, well, you do have an essential battery mode here on the Ticwatch Pro 5, which just allows you to use it as a regular watch, so you can still check the time and the date, etc. And then all you need to do is just bung on the bundled charging dock, get it powered back up again. And the good thing is it doesn't take even 25 minutes of charging to give you a half charge with the Pro 5. So that's good enough for a weekend away. Unfortunately, I'm not really a massive fan of the charging dock because it is a bit cack. The problem being that the connection is a bit flimsy. You do have a magnetic hold on it, but it's very easy to stick it on there and then accidentally just knock it and not even realize it's not charging. I do prefer a proper full-on base that you slap it on and just holds it more steady. But anyway, minor gripes for sure. Overall, a very positive experience is what I've had from the Mobvoi Ticwatch Pro 5 over the past couple of weeks. Certainly my favorite smartwatch that I've had slapped on my arm in quite some time. Fantastic performance, incredible battery life, and that full Wear OS experience, and for just over 300 quid, which really ain't too terrible at all. Anyway, that's what I think of the Mobvoi Ticwatch Pro 5. It'd be great to hear your own thoughts down in the comments below. Please do poke, subscribe, and ding that notifications bell for more on the latest and greatest tech, and have yourselves a really wonderful rest of the week. Cheers everyone, love you.